Dear 6th students, we are seeing Spices of India. In our previous video, we saw this paragraph, but apart from delicious food, spices also bring to mind adventure. Many of the most exciting voyages of modern history were made to conquer the spice trade and the race to become its master. The colonization of the Americas and Asia had its roots in the space trade. You should be known the meaning of space trade. In 1492, Columbus went west to find India and pepper, but ran into America and the Chile. Vasco da Gama, 6 years later, went around Africa to reach Calicut, the home of pepper. These voyages ended the very profitable trade that the Arabs and the Romans had built up over the centuries. They set the stage for a new world. Vasco da Gama and Columbus set the stage for a new stage for a new world. The voyages of Columbus and Vasco da Gama ended the very profitable trade, especially pepper. Already I told you about pepper in our previous video. Once again I want to say about pepper. This pepper, black pepper, also known as black gold, was the most prized spice trader from Kerala coast. Indians have been using black pepper for a very long time. Farmers began growing it in around 5,000 years ago and exported it to Greece, Romans, Europe and China, and also became popular in the Islamic Empire. Islamic Empire only, most of the Islam people who used spices in their food, especially biryani. Recipes from rich Roman households show the values of this spice in ancient Rome. The Romans sent 120 ships a year from Egypt to trade with India and bring back enormous quantities of pepper. So that this paragraph conveys about spice trade, especially pepper trade. The Romans sent 120 ships a year from Egypt to trade with India and bring back enormous quantities of pepper. Okay. Next, how do you think the expansion of the spice trade set the stage for a new world? Spices were always an important part of the Indian trade. Spices were traded with Mesopotamia, China, Sumeria, Egypt and Arabia. Along with perfumes and textiles as far back as 7,000 years ago, much before the Greek and Roman civilizations. Indian epics and in writings dating back to the Roman Empire in the 1st century AD talk about the cloves. Cloves also a kind of spice. Thousands of years also the great masters of Ayurveda had listed the use of spices for cooking and in medicines. About the cloves, just I want to say about this cloves. This cloves is a kind of spice. If you have ever cooked an Easter ham, you know cloves. They are strong. Added too much and you will overpower other subtler flavors. Generally, for a family seasoned meal, we are using between 4 and 10 whole cloves depending on dish. Okay, cloves. Next one, while these spices are readily available today, there was a time when people risked their lives to get Indian spices during the Middle Ages, a pound of ginger was worth the price of a sheep. A pound of maize was equal to the price of 3 sheep or half the price of a cow. Pepper was the crown jewel of all spices. Underline this line. Pepper. Pepper was the crown jewel of all spices, especially queen of all spices. Pepper. Okay. Here I want to say about maize. What do you mean maize? Maize is also a kind of spice. It is a webbing or leaf-like spice that wraps the nutmeg seed. It has an even more savory, musky flavor than nutmeg. This is the qualities of maize. Once again, I want to say this about maize. Maize is also a kind of spice. It is a webbing or leaf-like spice that wraps the nutmeg seed. It has an even more savory, musky flavor than nutmeg. Okay. What are those spices that the world wanted to badly? Cardamom, cloves, ginger, maize and nutmeg were some of the other spices that left Indian shores to flavor the world's kitchen. Okay. These are the spices used by people of the world, especially cardamom, cloves, ginger, maize and nutmeg. Here I want to say about ginger. You should be known ginger. Ginger is also a kind of spice. It is an absolutely essential ingredient for most curries, and is one of the recipe for ginger garlic paste for most Indian dishes. If you are not using ginger garlic paste, there is no taste at all. This is the qualities of ginger. Using spices in cooking has a long history. It may go back as far as 52,000 years ago. Though we cannot know for sure how men came to use spices, it is quite possible that it was by chance. However, spices have played a vital role. Vital role here means important role in our food. So that spices became a vital role in our food also. In earlier centuries, spices were not easily available and were very expensive. In the early period, the early time, the spices were not easily available, but rarely things also. It is these were very costly also, were expensive, very expensive. Thus spice trades become rich. Pepper and cinnamon no longer cost a fortune. However, while they seem to have lost their glory and value, they will never lose their place in a kitchen, especially in an Indian one. Okay, the people of the world who like spices very much. Without spice, there is no food at all. Not only in Indians, but also the whole world. The black pepper, already I told you about this black pepper. Black pepper, also known as black gold, was the most prized spice derived from the Kerala coast, especially Kozhikode. Indians have been using black pepper for a very long time. Farmers began growing it around 5,000 years ago and exported it to North and West Asia. Already I told you about this, isn't it? The trade soon spread to Greece, Rome, Europe and China. Already I told you about Rome also. The Romans who sent 120 ships a year from Egypt to trade with India and bring back enormous quantities of pepper also. So that Rome became a vital role in the spices trade. So Greece, Rome, Europe and China and also became popular in the Islamic Empire. Already I told you, the Islamic people only who liked spices very much, who used spices in their biryani also. So that this kind of spices became very popular in Islamic Empire. Recipes from rich Roman households show the value of the spice, and in ancient Rome, the Romans sent 120 ships a year from Egypt to trade with India and bring back enormous quantities of pepper. Bring back to their own country enormous quantities of pepper from India, especially from Kerala, Kozhikode. Okay, my dear students, we will see you next video. Okay, bye.